Hi, it's me again. Sorry, I just figured out I could put this on my TV and do it up. Okay, let's see. I can't read what I wrote because I'd stopped at that part, but what I can tell you about what happened with me is I ended up on my journey in 1995, another one before we get to North Carolina and what happened there, and the Virginias. But anyway, I was in Lisbon, Wisconsin, and I was working at a truck stop. Of course, I told you about that. But what happened next was when I went back to the motel room, I asked the owner to let me to change rooms. And as I was changing rooms, a little old man came, and he says, "Are you ready to talk?" And I knew exactly what he meant. And so I started telling him about the night that I was strangled, because for 18 months I didn't talk to anybody about it because nobody believed me. Even if with the bruises on my neck, nobody knew. Nobody believed me. And so when I got to the part that really scared me, because see, when the white light came in, the eyes were red. I mean, it was the devil face to face. His eyes were just red, and I could see these hands coming for me, and then BAM! This white light just hits me right here, and I flew backwards, and I'm like shaking, and I'm scared because, of course, I knew intuitively what happened, but this thing here and this thing here wasn't ready to do it. So I ran outside really fast, and I was shaking, and I didn't have any clothes on. I was so afraid, and so I went outside, and the man's name, well, I'm not going to use names just because. So anyway, the man, he got me outside. He helped me get dressed because I was shaking so bad, and he got me outside, and he kept trying to get me to go back in the room, but I knew if he did that I would probably die. And so, you know, when I told the man this in New Lisbon, Wisconsin, for the couple of weeks that I was there, he said, "Stop right there." He said, "Jesus wants you to know that that was his light, his Holy Spirit that hit you and anointed you, and now all of your gifts are come through." And I accepted that as the truth, but it still took many, many years. Well, not many years, I guess, many months. It was 10 months after that that I was standing at the end of a bar in Las Vegas and got called to preach, but that's another story. So I'm going to read about North Carolina, and I can only go like 14 minutes, so I might have to read quickly, okay? It's called My Daddy. I always had a dream of meeting the father who left me when I was 4. Every time I ran away and found myself on the streets trying to survive and being scared, I just knew that the spirit of my father was watching over me. There were many times when I thought I would go crazy, but this dream and this knowing that I had saved me and my sanity and kept me joyful. I would see myself meeting my father, and the funny thing was, I already knew him. I just didn't know he was my father. To my natural human mind, it was my earthly father that I always thought of. Little did I know that the child inside me was crying out and searching for my real dad. It was so many years later that I found out the truth. In fact, I found my real father on the top of a Virginia mountain. After my encounter with Jesus Christ in the abandoned parking lot in Pasadena, Texas, that's another story, sorry, on September the 9th of 1996, I was back on the road. Yes, people were telling me that I was crazy for hitchhiking across the United States, but I felt led there. I would encounter people who needed to know that God loved them, and that no matter what, he would always be there for them. They needed faith and they needed love. I was in my element because I needed faith and love also. What better way to receive than to give? I have come to believe. On part of my journey, I met this man in North Carolina. I was at a truck stop with a restaurant, and I knew that I was supposed to stay there for whatever reason. There was someone that I was supposed to meet, and this is what happened for over 3 years on the road. I never knew, just like Abraham, and probably Moses. Let's see. I couldn't explain it, I just went with it. I was sitting out in the front talking to these people, and this man with piercing blue eyes came up to me and asked if I was ready. I never saw him before, but I knew that he was the one I was waiting for his name was Disciple. He got coffee, and then we took off. We were headed to South Carolina, then up to West Virginia. As we were traveling, he asked me my story, and when I was done, he stopped the truck to pray for me. Excuse me. I was waiting, and when he didn't start to pray right away, I opened my eyes and found him looking at me. He says, you have been abused by men all of your life, and now you are having trouble seeing God as your Father. He wants you to close your eyes, see the light and the throne, and then you, as his little girl, are to climb on his lap and let you hold him. We set off and continued on our way down to South Carolina. We eventually made our way back up toward the mountains into West Virginia. We were going up the mountain, and at the base of the mountain, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and told me it was time to see the face of God on his throne. Because for 3 days, I couldn't. I tried, and I tried, and I tried. I would close my eyes, and instead of seeing nothing, it was all black. You know, and that's how my soul had felt. And I didn't know why. I got to hurry. I got 3 minutes. No, wait, I can go to 14. So anyway, okay. I was to see the face of God on his throne. I did not hear an audible voice, for if I said that I did, then I'd definitely be lying. He spoke to my spirit, for this is where you hear the still, small voice of God. One becomes trained in the way of hearing him. Anyway, we started up the mountain and I began to pray. The night had stars and it was still, calm, and peaceful in the atmosphere. One also learns to stop and listen to their surroundings in the atmosphere, the wind and the silence. I stopped to see and listen, and nothing happened. I said receive, not get. Or wait. I kept trying because I knew that the Spirit said it was time, so I had to receive it by faith. And I said receive his gift of faith, not get his faith by doing something good or bad. We can't earn it. One must receive, once they believe in the Spirit, before they can see any manifestation in the physical. Everything happens in the spirit world first before the natural. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Toward the top of the mountain, I began to feel a release in my spirit, and I followed it. I shut my eyes and I started praying louder. The trucker couldn't hear me because the gears were changing, going up the steep incline. I had tears running down my face. I was crying, singing, praising, and worshiping the God that I have only so far felt physically, mentally, and a little spiritually. I wanted to see him. I believed and I received. So therefore, it would come to pass. This only happens when it is the will of God, not your will. When something is God's will, it makes your faith grow because he also gives us the faith we need to rely on him. Just at the top of the mountain, I opened my eyes, and the sky that was dimly lit before now was brilliantly bright with light. Millions and millions of light in the stars. They were like waiting to lead me to the bosom of my Father in heaven. Such magnificence overwhelms one to where they can only shut their eyes and fall on their face before the God that created them. Well, I fell on my face, yet also stayed standing to receive the promised blessing. This time when I closed my eye, I saw the light surrounding the throne. My spirit was running before I could comprehend what was taking place. I sat, it seems, in the distance and watched my spirit self run toward the throne and climb as a little girl on my Father's lap. After a few seconds passed, the rest of me seemed to catch up with my spirit. I experienced to the very core of my being what it was like to receive love from a Father for the first time in my life. No longer was it a dream, it was reality. This reality has changed my whole approach to God. He was kind of not intimate before, where now he was so much a very part of the air that I breathed. I knew right then and there that I would die if I ever lost that sense of belonging in his arms. Today, when I go to him as a child for getting my needs met, I just tell him what I think my needs are and ask him to show me the difference between what I think my needs are and what he knows my needs are. My wants, I give to him. My behavior, well, to tell you the truth, when I have done something that I need to say I'm sorry for, either to him, usually always to him first, and also to another person, I go to him humbly, ready to accept whatever he gives out. Sometimes it is the consequences of my actions. Forgiveness, always. A cleansing stroke by his mighty love and from his word. A slap on the wrist. A feeling of conviction that gets me to the point that I hate the feeling of disappointing him so much that I never want to do whatever caused it in the first place. I can go to him as a child and be a child, not a rebellious child, even though sometimes I do. I am just a child who loves her daddy very, very much and trusts him as never before today. May God bless you and keep you. I'll be back. If you get tired, delete me.